Hi, everyone. Jayson Myers here, CEO of NGen. And today we're talking about advanced biomanufacturing in Canada, particularly as it relates to cell and gene therapeutics, cell and gene therapies, where we have, I think, a real strategic opportunity in Canada to build world-leading advanced manufacturing capabilities. I'm joined today by a pretty high-powered team of panelists who are going to help us understand more about this strategic opportunity. Nathalie Bourgouin, who is the Vice President of Quality and Compliance with ExcellThera, Dr. Panos Chrysanthopoulos. Panos, I hope that was pretty close, Chief Development Officer at Morphocell. Jana Macken, who is the Senior Vice President of Operations for CCRM, Canadian Regenerative Medicine, based in Toronto. Adam Heiss, who is the director of the Center for Advanced Therapeutic Cell Technology at CCRM, and Patrick Dout, who is the Chief Business Officer for CATI. And I'm, first of all, just going to ask everyone to say a few things about what you do, what your company or organization does, and how you're related to NGen. So maybe Nathalie, we can start with you.
Well, yes, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the Vice President of Quality and Compliance at ExcellThera. Being a small company, I also wear very many other hats, but that's my main one. And at ExcellThera, it's a Montreal-based company. We expand cord blood to make product for patients which have different types of blood cancers. That's one area that we work in, and the other area is we have a proprietary molecule called UM171 that we use with our clients for cell expansion and to improve gene therapies in biopharmaceutics. And we also have a pretty exciting pipeline of next generation cell and gene therapy. So we're pretty busy.
That's great. And Nathalie, you're a part of the Omnia Bio.
Yes.
That we're helping to support. Panos, let me ask you to give us an update on what Morphocell is doing. Another partner in the our Omnia Bio project.
Indeed. Nice to meet you all, first of all, and nice to see some familiar faces that I have collaborated with before. Morphocell is a seed stage company that is focusing on delivering and developing liver replacement and regeneration enhancing therapies through utilizing iPSCs. And we are deriving through the iPSCs, we're deriving some organoids that we are able to deliver in an allogeneic way to patients that are suffering from acute and eventually chronic liver failure. We have worked with NGen, and we have been supported by NGen and ACT grants of NGen, and we are very thankful for that. And we are at the stage now where we're about to switch gears and go into the full-on development phase towards the clinic. Nice to meet you all, and thank you for the invite.
Yeah, thanks, Panos. Jane or Jana, CCRM has been a long-standing partner with NGen, but a real driver of the Omnia Bio project. Tell us a little bit about that project, but also tell us more about the other activities that CCRM has been leading.
Okay, so I joined CCRM 6 years ago. Currently, I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations, which means that I kind of run the parts of the company that focus on the operations and the manufacturing. That's pertinent here. The other aspects of what CCRM does, we are a leader really in developing and commercializing regenerative-based cell and gene therapies. And that includes not just building manufacturing infrastructure, but we also focus on trying to attract investment to Canada and on incubating and spinning out companies. So we have a multitude of interests in building the sector and the ecosystem. When we started, Canada wasn't really very much on the map for these capabilities, but I would say now it is very much more at the heart of the revolution in Regen Med. Our latest spin out is Omnia Bio, who obviously is working closely with NGen And I think I'll let Adam Heis, who works more closely on the projects related to NGen, to speak to a little bit more of the details.
Great, thanks, Yana. Adam, over to you, and maybe a few words about why Omnia Bio is so important.
Sure. So I'm Adam Heis. I'm the director, as you mentioned, of the Center for Advanced Therapeutic Cell Technologies. So really our division and many other BUs are on my level at CCRM. We're working on developing the next technologies or the platforms that are going to be these biomanufacturing platforms that we're going to use. So developing them and getting them into a GMP space. And this is where we're working very closely with Omnia Bio. We're helping develop some of these platforms to shift over to Omnia Bio so they can be ran at like phase 1 through clinical and commercial. So that's kind of the exciting part there. And yeah, we've been working very closely with NGen as well to help get assistance to get these platforms off and really making them a lot more robust. So with the excitement of Omnia Bio coming online, I think it's going to give us a real opportunity to start doing more clinical trials, as well as getting some commercial partners in and start running manufacturing to actually make treatments that can be used in our patients, right? I think that's really the most exciting part about Omnia Bio, is kind of attracting that financial part of it and clients, and also just getting to a point where we're manufacturing our own therapeutics here in Canada.
Great, thanks, Adam. You know, we talk about the business opportunity and all the great tech, but none of this works without people. And Patrick Catty is very much engaged in developing high quality talent in the field of biomanufacturing. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing.
So that's pretty much it. Our mandate is really around training people, specifically around cell and gene therapies. We're originally a partnership formed by Cell Canada and CCRM. I mean, I think CCRM, Yana didn't mention it, but it's really, I think, building the whole ecosystem. I think you were alluding to this. I'll state it a little bit more fully, because Caddy is really a product of that. There was a need in the ecosystem for training, because in Canada we were able to produce a lot of people with, you know, advanced degrees, but making sure that those people have the hands-on know-how to walk into a clean room to actually do advanced manufacturing is not a given, and it's not something that our academic institutions are really set up for. So Caddy's able to fill that gap. And so basically we're, you know, CCRM is currently our majority shareholder, and being as there was a gap for training, Caddy, you know, was formed to be able to do that. We recently opened a lab in Guelph, where we actually we have our first cohort for an IPSC bootcamp training that's finishing up today, actually, of people coming through that we're going to be training a lot more people. And we mentioned Omnia Bio. We have a mandate to train basically all the new employees that will be coming in with, you know, the partnership with CCRM, all of Omnia Bio's new employees as they'll be coming in, to qualify them on a lot of the stuff that they're going to need to know how to do to work in a clean room in manufacturing environments. How to culture cells in a clean room, how to gown, how to follow SOPs, all this kind of hands-on stuff is really how we train people for partly theoretical, but also the very practical. Here's what cells look like under the microscope. Here's how you count cells. Here's how you do the real tangible stuff that you need to know how to do for advanced manufacturing. And so that's really our mandate.
Well, that's super. Let me tell you on behalf of NGen how pleased we are to be able to support all of you, and especially the Omnia Bio initiative here. I have to say that as we announced this project, there were some people who told us or asked us why we were engaged in cell and gene therapy and in biomanufacturing, because, in quotes, that's not manufacturing. And you know, we very clearly said, look, this is the leading edge of advanced manufacturing, but it's also a very, very important strategic opportunity for Canada. And maybe I don't know who to ask first, but anyone who wants to respond, tell us a little bit about why it is so important that we set up these capabilities here in Canada.
I'm happy to go with that. I mean, I think to your first,
and then I'll just point to other people.
I think everything having to do with advanced GMP manufacturing is probably the heart of modern manufacturing in a modern economy. the type of expertise you need, just if we step back from our field right now, operating clean rooms and working in a clean environment is very important. It's going to become more important. It's something you need to do for everything having to do with the production of all forms of medicines. It's something that you need to have to do for everything having to do with computer components, all of that. They need clean rooms, they need clean environments, they need ISO regulated air. So everything, the expertise you need for this is the modern economy. And knowing how to make phase 3 and commercial grade medicines is something that we need. And with the pandemic, we've seen how important that is, and how important the fact that up until then, Canada didn't really have the ability to manufacture vaccines to supply our own population. And we had to go out and get contracts with all kinds of other producers. And that costed us a lot of money, and it costed us a lot of uncertainty as well. And so having a homegrown ability to manufacture essential medicines is of the utmost importance from a security perspective. So in terms of manufacturing, I'd say it's difficult to see anything that's more important than this. I'll leave it at that. I'll let the others to chime in.
Thanks, Patrick. That's a good way to start off. Anyone else? Nathalie, from your perspective.
Sure. Well, I mean, I have a little bit of a different take on that. I agree with what you just said, Patrick. I think we have such a great pool of experts in Canada, and I think that's in part due to the fact that we have some of the best medical schools and research in the world, and so we have a lot of very, very smart minds in biologics in that area and biotech. So, and we have the chance to have a really great regulatory agency that's helping us in innovating in innovative therapies. So for me, between that and the new state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities that are being built and meeting GMP and ISO standards makes it for a great climate.
All right, thanks, Nathalie. Panos, from your perspective at Morphocell.
Yeah, I can give a different angle, given that I'm coming from the cell therapeutic development side of things. I think having capable manufacturing that is local is very, very beneficial for the therapeutic development side of things. We know very well that locality plays a significant role in tech transferring processes, such complex processes into GMP manufacturing rooms. Having a quick interaction and having the ability to keep an oversight over the operations and make sure that all the details of the processes are transferred accurately are extremely important attributes towards a success. So having a local environment of capable manufacturing facilities for us as Canadian therapeutic developers is extremely important. So that's from my perspective.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Panos. Adam, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think just stepping from the patient point of view, right? Biomanufacturing is a critical last step in bridging the bench to the patient. As Nathalie alluded to, we have a ton of great universities. We're doing a lot of cutting edge science and R&D throughout Canada. Without biomanufacturing, we can't get it to be relevant. And if we can't do it locally, it's either forced to shut down or it leaves. And sometimes when it leaves, we lose control over those companies, right? They have to go to venture capitalists, those sort of things. So by enabling biomanufacturing in Canada, we're able to bridge that gap and keep the impact of this groundbreaking discoveries in Canada. I think that's incredibly important. And especially when we think of our socialized Medicare, having those therapies stay here, I think brings another advantage there as well. And I kind of agree completely with Patrick too. That during the last pandemic, we saw Canada wasn't really fully prepared for that as we should have been. And obviously we've done a lot to close these gaps here. But I think it's essential we stay focused on it, right, and keep it at the forefront.
Yeah, no, that's a really important point, and thanks to everyone. Yana, I want to ask you though, and maybe we should have covered this right at the very beginning. So what are cell and gene therapies all about, and why are they so important in the first place for medicine?
Well, perhaps most in our audience will have heard about the concept of personalized medicine, right? The whole idea that we could have not just treatments for some of the more intractable chronic diseases. You think about the neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, think about heart disease, you think about oncology. More than half of the clinical trials, maybe closer to 80% in the field of cell and gene therapy is in oncology. So there are treatments, but CGT holds out the promise of cures. And there is some evidence from the earliest trials of CAR T therapies going back to starting in 2012 that that promise is there, and obviously we'll still need lots of development to bear the full fruits. But this is very much at the forefront of the breakthroughs that are going to come in healthcare. And I think Canada and Canadians pride themselves on our healthcare system, and we want to be leading edge. And this is really an area where Canada has a significant chance to punch above its weight. We have all the bright minds. We have the academic theorists. We have all the science going back to, the discovery of stem cells here in Toronto in the early 60s. But we need to translate that into actually building an industrial sector. And manufacturing is what will make it sticky and what will bring the investment and keep it here, stop the brain drain to other powerhouse centers overseas. That's not to say we can't collaborate, and we should, with overseas areas and centers of excellence, as CCRM is doing around the world through our hub strategy. But Canada deserves a place at the table because of all the science and excellence we have demonstrated in this area.
I couldn't agree more, Jana. We have treated more than 115 patients now with the stem cell therapy, and it's effectively a cure for some of the malignancies, blood malignancies. So for us, it's very exciting. And as you said, we have the know-how, we have the infrastructure to focus on these very high-value personalized medicine aspects. And this is where I think our niche is to be at the table. So I think we can develop it here, and then we can expand our views. We've done clinical trials in Canada, the US, and in the Netherlands. And so it's very exciting, and everyone we speak to about it is so enthusiastic, and our whole group is very passionate about this.
Well, it's a great opportunity. And, I think the OmniaBio project, the really world-leading GMP facilities that are being set up is super important. But tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that companies are facing in this sector. It's not easy to go from a research-based organization, research-based activity into full-scale production here. And tell us a little bit about the challenges over that journey. Maybe Panos, let's start with you.
I can jump in, indeed. So one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing has to do with a big gap, as you very well pointed out, Jay, between the research, the R&D side of things, the discovery side of things, and manufacturing. I see very beneficial moves from organizations like NGen and from the Canadian government focused on manufacturing, which are very, very welcome. As Jana mentioned, this is a very important element that will make research stick in our country. However, we must acknowledge a big gap that there exists in the middle. From the academic IP generation to getting to manufacturing, there is a very big gap of development that is missing currently from our Canadian environment. And with the help of organizations like the CCRM, we are working towards that, but we must identify and acknowledge that. And I'm saying that because we have a dual responsibility in manufacturing these advanced the first is to train our manufacturing operators and experts with the help of organizations like CATI, train them to deal with the complex operations of the clean room and the very complex processes. But on the other hand, as process developers, we have the responsibility of making these products simpler to manufacture. This is a unique nature of our field. The complexity during the manufacturing in clean rooms, that's a very unique element that we're dealing with. And the simpler we make our products by understanding the processes, by building the right analytics, by going to the GMP facilities, understanding and knowing what our product is meant to be and is meant to do and how it's developed is an extremely important piece of the puzzle that we also need to direct some focus on.
Thanks, Panos. So, Patrick, over to you, because as Panos was saying, the skills are pretty important here.
Yeah, agreed. And so I can resonate with what was just said in terms of those gaps. I think one of the challenges is that we don't have a really, like, if we compare ourselves to the United States, even on a per capita basis, a lot of the people that come into organizations that are involved in manufacturing sometimes will come in from small molecule pharmaceuticals because they have a GMP background, they have clean room experience, that kind of stuff. We don't have as robust like a commercial scale manufacturing as there is in the United States. And I mean, we're in a very particular spot economically, you know, as Canadians, next to the largest economy in the world, et cetera, et cetera. But I think one of the key challenges to building a biomanufacturing sector is just that. There's some things that really still have to be built. And I think one of the beauties that we have with this as a new space and everything cell and gene therapy, when I say new space, it's not like traditional pharmaceuticals, it's younger and there's, you know, we're really, really good at ideation, at creating all kinds of new companies, at getting, you know, startups created and going. It's that gap. And I think CCRM has done a really good job of, you know, ecosystem building by, and you know, with NGen's help, you know, creating groups like Omnia Bio. It's really building out those other pieces of the ecosystem to make sure that we've got a real web where we're self-sufficient. And, you know, you're a university spin out, you have access to expertise that are going to be able to help you do your phase 1 material, and you have a place down the road where you can go to manufacture your phase 3 commercial material as well. Once all of that is properly in place, well, that's your ecosystem. And I think, honestly, the important pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together quite nicely for this whole space, with what CCRM is doing, with Omnia Bio, with, you know, with what smaller companies, you know, like Morphocell, or, you know, like all of the ecosystem around that. You know, things are coming together. So it's good. And I think we have to keep going with this and make sure it works, because, you know, when you look at, say, the last wave, which was traditional monoclonal antibodies, that kind of stuff, we don't really have a solid manufacturing base in Canada for that kind of stuff. There are companies now that are starting to get into that and doing it, but all the first wave of monoclonal antibodies that we came up in the 2000s and the 2010s, we weren't really a big part of that from a manufacturing perspective. And, you know, and so this wave, we seem to be doing so far a lot better. And I think that's really good.
Oh, it's good. And as you say, like, you have to look at it as a full value chain, a full system here. So it's not just about the ideas and the research and the tech startups and the availability of technology. It's about, or necessarily about even the manufacturing, although that's an important part too. It's the full business development, making sure that there are customers there, that you know, the regulatory process is aligned and everything else. Nathalie, what, from your perspective, again, you know, sort of a leading company in this area, what are some of the challenges that you've seen?
Well, the challenges that we have had is, although, you know, the governments, the federal governments and provincial governments have provided, you know, funding to some of the fairly large companies, some of the smaller companies who could really use that support haven't received as much. So we're working very closely with universities and trying to build that symbiotic relationship that we can establish to go from fundamental research to process development, then to transfer into the GMP area. And, you know, we've found over the years that we have to be very agile in the way that we work and in the way that we manufacture the process. You know, just from a regulatory point of view, the regulations are becoming a little bit more specific to our area, But overall, it's nothing like making a sterile product, for example, a sterile liquid. Making a individualized stem cell product requires a whole slew of other approaches. So we've found that we're using a lot of risk-based approaches and just that whole thinking part. So having that interaction has really been helpful, and obviously having interactions with CCRM and Omnio Bio is really helping us, because sometimes we just have to find solutions that someone else has found or somebody has a problem and they found a solution to, and we can leverage that. But if we go back to to find the individuals who are trained to do that, well, there aren't any really that, from a long time. There's a few, in different pockets of the country who have done this type of work. But it requires not only the specific expertise, but also the thinking behind. So, as Patrick was mentioning, the great training facilities to help with the people who are currently in the process. But in more long term, I think we still need to have more relationships with universities and research centers. And I think, although the technical skills, and this is where I'm putting my QA hat sometimes, the technical skills are really important. I think we need to continue to really encourage this process of learning to learn and having the agility to approach projects and processes maybe in a different way, so that we do maintain our edge in this very high-tech area.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, the technology and the research is progressing so rapidly that you really need to be able to learn on a full-time basis just to keep up with the pace of this. I'm going to put everybody on the spot in a minute. I'm going to go to Jana and Adam next, but what I'd like each of you to do is give me, if you had an elevator pitch with a group of students of why they would want to come into this area, what would you say to them? And so I'll leave that with you and think about it, maybe come back to this at the end of our webinar here. But Jana, so CCRM really provides in your facility in Toronto has provided a lot of support infrastructure to take companies through clinical trials. Here, Omnia Bio, I think is going to sort of go the next phase and help scale up for not only clinical trials but manufacturing. What are some of the, maybe you could explain what CCRM has been doing here, but also some of the challenges that you've seen on the part of a number of companies that you've worked with in this area.
Okay, so at the manufacturing facility that we have here at CCRM, we do all the way up through pivotal trials. So at early clinical phase 1, phase 2 focus. And Omnia Bio, which by the way, is currently the largest CGT manufacturing facility in Canada. It will be commissioned next year and clients will start flowing in. Some of these are shared clients with CCRM currently. So we have gained quite a lot of experience, and I think the challenges we see are challenges in attracting funding for sure, and CCRM has a role to play in attracting capital north of the border. When we look at the massive amounts of government and private investment flowing into this field in the US and Europe and parts of Asia, I think Canada, clearly there is room to do more. And I think the private industry angle is especially as important as the government support. This has been the recipe for CCRM success, leveraging grants for sure, but also combined with private investment. And Omnia Bio actually was founded on a sizable direct foreign investment together with funding from governments here in Canada. So I think that is the template for success. And, it's happening all around the world. There are other global players going down this path as well. So continuing to pour in funding to maintain that leading edge advantage because the field is moving so quickly. So I would say that is very important. The other challenge, I think, is Panos alluded to it earlier. The cost of these therapies will have to come down. Yes, they are cures. Yes, they are marvelously promising. But we have to create a more standardized approach through our development efforts. And again, it's all about platform development and taking the industry to a more evolved state. And monoclonal antibodies went through the same thing. Started with it being the Wild West, and then 15 years later, things got standardized. So we just have to keep the field going with that as a focus in mind.
So as we're standardizing platforms, we're looking at pretty advanced applications here, as well as advanced manufacturing processes. Adam, when you're out there looking at all of the technologies that are involved in cell and gene therapy manufacturing, this isn't a simple process. So tell us a little bit about what you do to look at integrating various and the types of technologies that are involved here.
Sure. I think it comes down to, especially coming from a CDMO background, it's always getting more for cheaper, faster. Right? So how do we accomplish that is kind of our goals when we start developing the platforms. One of the biggest things is, can we automate any of these steps, right? That's going to give you even more control when you get GMP. So integrating any technology that will allow you to automate any of the steps while keeping it closed to reduce your chance of contamination. And also getting out in front, trying to figure out who's doing the most advanced technology. What are they doing? What are they doing to disrupt the field? Can we take advantage of that? Can we leverage it? How easy is it to bring in? Is it just a bolt onto a current platform, or do we have to go back and redo the entire development campaign? So kind of stepping back, trying to assess that. And I think that's where it's critical to build those collaborations, right? So that you can hit these platforms on the ground running and really get them into the clinic as fast as possible into it. So to me, it's just looking out there, seeing what there is for technology, trying to bring it in, and encouraging kind of bring it in. I think that's a big part where NGen's helped us out a lot too, is allowing us to do that, to expand our scope to evaluate these things as well. So it's working with partners to bridge those gaps as quickly as possible if you can as well. And I think we've done that really well through CCRM. We have a close collaboration with Zytiva. We've worked with different granting agencies and the like.
Great. Thanks, Adam. I maybe one question specifically for Nathalie and Panos, and that is, are there specific advantages that you've already realized or benefits that you've already seen as a result of your participation with Omnia Bio and other partners here? Nathalie, why don't you go first?
Okay, sure. Yes, obviously, some of the equipment, as Adam was saying, that allowed us to do more automated processes are helping us have more stable and robust processes for the manufacturing. Ours is a very small, very short cycle, so every single step needs to be very well controlled. And having these equipments, have been able to evaluate some of these equipments and see how they would improve our process and shorten the time, once again, to get to the product to the patient is very critical.
Super, thanks. Panos.
Yeah, and I could also add that we see a common mistake in the field where we're focusing on getting to the clinic. But we all need to come to the agreement that our goal is not to get our products to a clinical trial where it can be tested in 10 or 20 patients. It's about us delivering a product to the market and save the people's lives and improve quality of life of our patients. And I think that's the growing up that we have to do. Up until now, we had to generate a proof of concept in humans, as demonstrating that our therapies work. Now we have shown that. It's time for us to start focusing on growing up and going to commercial manufacturing. And we see this trajectory through facilities like Omnia Bio's facility, which is focused more on the next step, which is the commercial manufacturing. We as Morphocell, to return to your original question, we have benefited from our collaboration with CCRM very much so directly through some financing that we have received from CCRM, as well as of course all the advice and work that has been performed in the facilities of CCRMs, and more support is needed in our field, like Nathalie alluded to. We as small companies, we really need support. We really need some early financing so we can build the products that can be sustainable and can grow, can scale, and can reach the commercial manufacturing and not just the clinic.
Right, and going and building that sort of a scale-up manufacturing capability is so important in that next round of financing.
Mm-hmm. I would also add, Jay, that you can build the bricks and mortar, but you have to people it with the trained staff, which is why CCRM has invested with CADI. But we also have created CCRM enterprises because we need to get the funds north of the border to fill the needs that Nathalie and Panos are outlining. And for that, we have created a team of experts who are expert in this field and who get the attention of the big venture funds and really work very hard to attract that capital to Canada through a number of different avenues. So you need all three of these things, right? You need you need the money, you need the bricks and mortar, and then none of that is meaningful without the right talent and training.
That's a perfect intro for you, Patrick. What are your how is this helping you, and what are the future plans for expanding that training? I know you mentioned the Guelph facility.
So we're actually working really hard right now to ramp up our ability to provide lots of what we call boot camps. So basically bring people in for intensive hands-on training that'll last, sometimes for a week, and with other partners it could up to be 4 weeks, maybe, depending on what the needs are, for getting them ready to work in a clean room environment. And so that's really been our focus, and we've got different type of modules where we train people, and people will, so far in the cohorts that we've had, people come from all kinds of areas. People who come from, other areas of drug development might want to come in and say, well, this is a really exciting field. We want to get into it. We want the basic training to be able to make that bridge and to get into this exciting field. So what we're doing, well, we're really expanding our content. We're finishing up a boot camp this week on iPSCs, which is like one of the fundamentals. It's what Panos mentioned, and I'm sure Nathalie has a lot of experience with. It's one of the basically the pillars for everything cell therapy related. And so people have to know how to count the cells, what they look like, do they aggregate, and how do you manage them? Basically anything basic cell culture. But this isn't something you really just learn out of a textbook. You have to actually touch it. You have to feel it. You have to walk through it. You have to do the gowning that goes with all the training. All of this hands-on stuff is really what we're putting a lot of emphasis on now in our Guelph lab, and we'd like to have other sites as well, and we're looking at that.
And Adam, what about you? I know you're extremely busy in getting the Omnia Bio facility up and running here for unveiling next and getting into operation next year there. But both you and Jana, what does the future look like for both Omnia Bio and CCRM?
Yeah, you want to take that one?
Either one. So Adam and Omnia Bio, Jana and CCRM.
I think the future for CCRM, because Omnia Bio really is the beginning of building those commercial capabilities. We've talked a lot here about Canada, but I think this is a very global field. There are leading light centers of excellence all around the world. And I think that our hub strategy with recently established CCRM Nordic, earlier a few years ago, we established CCRM Australia, and targeting other centers of excellence around the world we will also be planning to build manufacturing in select other locations and to offer really services, including potential expansion of Caddy, right, to other markets, Patrick. Because again, the needs are going to be similar everywhere. And, we talked a lot here about the excellence of science in Canada, but science knows no boundaries. And we all know that this is a challenging field. We can't predict where the best ideas and new technologies will come from. So we have a lot to gain with Canada in a leadership position, but we also can't forget that a global network is of great value, both in attracting focus and investment here, but also in terms of being able to share in some of the great ideas from overseas.
That's super. And Adam, as far as your preparations for the facility go?
So I think it's I'm trying to think of the best way to word this question. So I think for the preparation of Omnia in getting it up and running and going, probably the best course again is focusing on how do we bring the talented people in to run these places, right? It's not easy to find these people, so working closely with Caddy, and that's where our investment with CCRM has gone there for, is to help develop these people to make sure as we grow up, we have the right people to fill the gap there and continue working on it. And also to continue working to find external partners to keep it moving forward. We have ideas not just to be one building, but to expand, like Yana mentioned too. So can we expand more globally too, to have these platforms go out to reach even more patients that need it? Because ultimately, to me, it goes back to the patient and helping them out. So yeah, that's sort of how I feel about it.
Great. Well, look, we don't have any questions from our audience here. So let me wrap up by asking that one very, very important question. You're stuck in an elevator with a group of students, and you want to attract them into the field of cell and gene therapy. What's the elevator pitch here? I'm going to ask Patrick last because he's probably got this figured out for a long time. But Yana, why don't we start with you, and then I'm just going to go around my screen. So Yana, you're first.
I think the pitch is asking people to think about their families and their friends, and if they know of others who in those circles who have been afflicted by some of the chronic, incurable, fairly intractable diseases, and how would they like to work in either developing or manufacturing the cures. And that's the pitch. And that's a very exciting career.
Sounds good. Panos.
I would say that they have a rare opportunity of becoming a part of history. This is a new field. This is that is overpopulated with pioneers, with entrepreneurs. It's a hotspot. It's in a very exciting area for somebody to build their career in, because it's new, because there's continuous growth, continuous learnings. So I would invite everybody to join the field. Although it looks scary because there's a lot of unknowns, that's what makes it also more exciting.
Great. Nathalie, over to you.
Well, it's interesting that you should ask, because we actually interviewed some, I forget, work term, I guess they're called in English, work term students, and we had to basically tell them that. So for us, and to add to Panos's approach, is we have an opportunity at the moment to have identify a patient, identify the cord blood that matches, make the product within 21 days, and see the impact on the patient. So that is priceless in terms of experience and expertise. And it's so gratifying from a personal point of view. So for us, that's definitely the big win.
That's great, Nathalie. Adam.
Yeah, I smiled, Jay, you said you're gonna ask this question, because I've often thought about this question and how it would, to talk to my younger self. So to me, the first thing I would do is let them know that there's a career in biomanufacturing, that this whole segment exists. I think when I didn't really realize this exists till I was doing my PhD. So that'd be the first place I'd start. Let them know it does exist, and there are really good jobs in it, and it's a really good career to go into. And I think for myself, the reason it's most rewarding is you get to play a small part in providing a life-saving medicine, right? You get to be a cog in that, and you're going to change somebody's life in your lifetime, and that's awesome. And why wouldn't you want to be a part of that, right? And you get to be there. Like, it's just, I get goosebumps just thinking about it. But we get to do that every day.
So Patrick, last word over to you, and I hope all your thunder hasn't been stolen already.
Well, you know what? I'm actually glad that my thunder has been stolen, because, it shows that I think everybody's mentioned it, the idea that you're doing something meaningful. And I'm going to stop to take a little bit of a stab at an aspect of modern culture. When you're talking to people about this, part of my elevator pitch would be manufacturing these types of products, going into a clean room day after day. It's not easy work. But as Adam just said, there's a world of possibilities you can do, in terms of the development, quality work, like what Nathalie does, working on a manufacturing floor. There's a whole series of different tasks and expertise that are needed here. But you people who are motivated by that passion to do something that's actually meaningful, to say my career means something because I'm helping society, I think that's a strong driver. And I don't just sell them the rosy side. When I talk to people, I tell them, working in manufacturing, you have to be diligent. You have to be really careful. What you do matters. If there's a contamination, that could have really serious effects. You have to be really mindful about what you're doing. It's a work with a lot of responsibility, but that responsibility has the gratification that comes with it that Nathalie just mentioned, and that everybody's mentioned. So I think we're all on the same page there. So, I would give them both the nobleness of the task, but also the challenge that comes with it.
Well, you guys have sold me, although it might be a little late here. But as we were setting up our Careers of the Future initiative, we spoke to a lot of young people, and we thought originally what was really going to attract young people into advanced manufacturing was working with technology. But that's just taken for granted today. What really made the difference was when we spoke, exactly as you have, about opportunities to change the world, opportunities to help people live longer, to save lives. That makes a big difference. And I think you guys have all spoken with that exact same passion here about what you're doing. You're all great. You're all amazing advanced manufacturing leaders in a rapidly evolving field where we know now that Canada has real strategic opportunities in these fields. So thank you all for participating, and wish you all the best of luck, the best of success going forward. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks.